Hello again, and this is Chad Everett Broshears, the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia and the author of the Human Manual, many series of books to come. Today's episode is Are you a values prospector or a fool's gold aficionado? Which one are you? Now, most people are actually a fool's gold. They don't mind well. They basically go from stream to stream or person to person or experience to experience with a preconceived idea about how that experience is supposed to go, and they're not open to the total value what is available from every experience. And you can identify these people by their stories. They enroll you on how bad somebody else is or how nasty an experience was. An example I used recently when I was talking about this with somebody else is that there are people that actually tell you, they're not as common, but you will come across somebody eventually that has this idea, whether it's to this extreme, whether it is this type of example or not. But if it's your first time going to Disney World and your experience was far less than desirable, maybe you had just the worst experience you could possibly have, and kids love Disney World for the most part. It's at least what the commercials tell us, and also my own experience. I loved the hell out of Disney World as a kid. You have people that they'll have that experience. Now, if they tell you, what do you do? And this kind of gives you a distinction. Which direction do you work in? Are you a values prospector or a fool's gold aficionado? Which is it? Now, if you're a values prospector, you can say, oh, that's kind of interesting. That doesn't sound common. What happened? How was it? And then as they tell you what happened, you can either get more curious about certain aspects of what they went through, like, oh, I get that. What did you plan? Like, what was your idea about what would happen beforehand? Like, what did you have going through your mind that was supposed to happen? All right. And what was it that did happen, and what was your thoughts on that thing, right? Like, was it, because you can really get curious about this, and this is what I do regularly in my daily practices, is I do get really curious as far as where that person, like, what they thought should have happened, what their experience was when it happened. And forgive the pause back there. There was actually my computer screen froze up, so I wasn't sure if it was still recording. So you just have all these different things that can happen. There's all kinds of possibilities and prospects out of the entire thing and the entire situation. When somebody shares a story with you, you do two things. When you listen, you either identify just that, you just want to relate to them, possibly. I mean, if you're considerably, a good person, you give a rat's ass about what the person's talking to you about. I threw up quotes because I don't necessarily agree with that, but you can have people in public or in the populace that actually think that way. What happened is, lost my train of thought. Well, how about that? Screen froze up again. I must be having connection issues. I apologize for that. Hopefully it'll iron itself out. So if you're listening, the two things that happen whenever you listen to somebody is you find out about what their experience was for relatability. And the second thing is whether or not you want to experience it yourself. Now, there's actually quite a bit more that go into those two things. The one is for relatability is, are you soft touch relatable? Meaning you just hear them nod your head and say, oh man, that really sucks. Or are you a deep touch relatable or intimate relatable? And by the way, intimate does not necessarily mean sex. It's more intimate, the deeper the connection. And that doesn't have to be physical contact. It just means that you empathetically get that person. So if you really get the person, you get to feel their experience. That's real relatability. That's intimacy. That is empathy. Now, the other is you find out whether or not you're kind of getting a survey without necessarily recognizing you're doing a survey or being a part of one, and that is whether or not you want to experience that yourself. And if it's a soft touch person in that scenario, they may say, I heard it was a bad situation, I don't want to ever do it. If you're more of the deeper, intimate conversationalist or connection and empathy based person, you're going to ask questions around it. Like, well, what else happened? Like, yeah, I get that, maybe the plane was delayed, but, were you rushing to get to the airport? Or, like there's so many variables. Like, is the person a punctual person? Are they somebody who like really is organized and strategized for all kinds of events and for their life? Or are they the other side, which is kind of like screwed about and just kind of, right? They're all over the place. They're not organized, and those are the type of people that commonly blame other people for their shortcomings and for their lack of responsibility. They put it off onto other people, and they have others that enroll and support them in that idea, because a lot of people like to be dramatic for the opportunity to connect. But those usually aren't deep connections. That's for another podcast. It's not for this one, or for another recording, not for this one. But you have that experience where, if you don't get curious about what the person's going through, you're challenging yourself for that experience. I mean, that you're not necessarily like, you're putting a negative point against the experience, rather than, the person could have gone to Hawaii and it could have been the worst thing in the world for them.